In 1920, of course, southern Russia was in the midst of incredible chaos. World War I was over, but the revolution in Russia had meant that there was really nobody giving order to the communities, and Mennonite families experienced a triple disaster: a typhus epidemic, serious food shortages, and quite horrific violence. It was out of that they turned to their sisters and brothers and cousins in the US and Canada. There was a response. And in March of 1922, people began to have good food served to them when they had been baking with thistles and eating small rodents. From the trains, when you'd pull into stations, you could hear people as they shuffled to the cars saying, "Bread, in God's name, bread." This was the plea that MCC was responding to. They thought it was temporary, but it was the beginning of a century of Mennonite Central Committee.
Now, this is indeed a historic moment, as they come to the windows to see the ship, for many of them the first time. They fold their hands in gratitude. They lift up their children to see it. All this means new beginning, new beginning.
Thousands of Mennonite people left what became Ukraine, came to Canada. They were the ones who were able to support what became a flood of Mennonite refugees leaving Europe after World War II. Those people become core, backbone supporters of Mennonite Central Committee. People who talk about how absolutely vital MCC was to their family survival. That has placed in them a deep, deep loyalty to this whole sense that we are called. We have this invitation to respond to the needs of the world in much the same way as we were touched generations ago. Part of the story of Mennonite Central Committee is recognizing that they wanted to and were called to respond to a much larger family than their own Anabaptist family. So there was the rebuilding in Europe after World War II, the beginnings of the notion of fair trade. There was Mennonite Disaster Service, which eventually became its own agency. There was the Teachers Abroad program, where young teachers were sent to dozens of countries around the world, especially in Africa, to contribute to an emerging education system. There was also this realization that often the very best work we could do would be undone in a moment by violence. Only when there is peace and stability in communities do development projects have a chance to be birthed and then to thrive. I've been struck recently, as we are entering our Centennial, by the dogged determination, the persistence that was shown by people who were invited to carry out this effort to respond to Mennonites that were really stranded in South Russia. And it was more than a year and a half from that first effort before the first feeding kitchens were actually set up in Khortytsa in March of 1922. I often think that at any point, had someone given up, we wouldn't have a story. We wouldn't have a Mennonite Central Committee Centennial.